now it's time to roll up our sleeves and look at this matchup. Take a deep dive. Cowboys and Giants, two teams that you could say 2024 has been forgettable. But here's my spin on it, CA. I don't even want to call it a spin, but what I'm choosing to look at, the way, and you and I were on postgame on the Cowboys after their win over the Commanders on Sunday. This could be the start. And listen, you can accuse me of being overly optimistic. You can accuse me of not being a realist here. But
no, I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to call you a competitor.
I like that. There we go. Because we were dealing with some of the calls, and we know the post game with Wolchuk and Broadus were really dealing with a lot of negative calls. Hey, you got a tank. This is terrible. Why did they win that game? But no. The season's not over. No. And again, I could be a part of the problem. That's a cross I'm willing to bear. I say you're part of the problem. You don't understand. But why we all do this, the true fandom within, is to root for your team in the battle on the field, the competitive nature. You want your team to win, and today's no exception.
Exactly. Let me say this real quick, because we were talking about this that night. I was saying after the game, I was like, I'm not going to let anybody steal my joy. And let alone the players should not be getting their joy stolen as well, because they're competitors. And the way I looked at it is anybody consumed in November about the draft is like mad that your team won only because your fantasy player didn't excel. You didn't get what you wanted out of your fantasy guys, so you're mad and your team won. And team building is a sport. I'm all for team building. But drafting is a strategy. And so you're consumed with strategy over the game itself. And I'm not even talking about can they win out. I'm talking about, and this is what I broke that game down to. I'm talking about the big surprising win of Washington. I'm looking for who's a dog and who's making business decisions. And with this squad right now, the way this team is built, and I said it's built wrong, you got a core of veterans whose assignment for the last couple of years, get out of the first round. Coaching staff, get out of the first round. The guys they gave them and added to this core of veterans are rookies. So you're looking at on-the-job training, and it's a mismatch and a train wreck throwing in the injuries. With that being said, to be concise, what I'm looking for, and they have a chance to actually win some games here because these rookies are actually getting better. So even if you have a new coaching staff, you want to know who you got. So if they win some games along the way, I'm not mad at it, because guess what? In the draft, you could draft Trey Lance number 3 overall, San Francisco, and it don't work out. You could draft Micah Parsons where the Cowboys did, and the fan base is initially mad because it wasn't an offensive tackle or a cornerback. I have seen it all. So if you want to look to the future so you can say, I want to evaluate talent right now, I'm not going to let you steal my joy, because I'm looking at talent currently playing to decide how I build this team going forward.
No doubt about it. And
that's the strategy, too.
There you go. Tell them, CA. Tell them, CA.
All right, competitor, keep talking.
All right. All right. It's a matchup, too, this one specifically, obviously, with the Giants, where on paper is one of the few times where you're going to look at a matchup and say, this is a very winnable game. 3.5 points is the spread. We'll get more into that in Jake's Casino Corner coming up at 6:40. But you think about the New York Football Giants and of how horribly wrong this season has gone for the Cowboys. It's gone even worse for the New York Giants.
What a mess.
And if you want to do the statistical component of it all, the offense is terrible. Under 24 points in their last 6 games. They're last in the NFL in points per game. And I'm not usually a statistics guy. I think you can, get lost in the wash of all the statistics and whatnot. But there's something to be said about taking on the worst offense in the National Football League. Obviously, Daniel Jones is now a Minnesota Viking.
Yep, signed yesterday.
You got Malik Neighbors sounding off after the end of their last loss. So I do think he is going to be a feature point of the offense, depending on if it's Drew Lock or if it's Tommy Coldcuts, Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, he's kind of injured. and by the way, they don't even have Saquon Barkley. That's what probably started the whole downfall internally of that team, the implosion of that team, because they just let him walk to Philadelphia, and he's leading the league in rushing. They got this rookie that didn't play against the Cowboys the first time they played. I want to say his name is Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah. Tracy, they might just try to hand the ball to him quite a bit, because the Cowboys' defense is not known to stop the run, but the defense has gotten better. The main takeaway from me about the Giants, and I'm going to let you finish talking about this. The mess of the Giants and the Jets shows you teams that the locker room is shattered. In other words, those are guys making business decisions. Those are guys who have nothing to look forward to. Those are guys you cannot build around. Whoever inherits those teams, I'm talking about the new coaching staffs, they've got a mess. The biggest difference between them and the Cowboys, this Cowboys team has not quit. They just suck. And they suck because the core is injured. I'm talking about the veterans who you're counting on. The main guys are injured. Tank and Dak are injured. Other guys are injured. But at the same time, you got rookies and Band-Aids who were the depth. The depth that they let walk away in the offseason, they replaced them with guys who were cut at the end of spring training camp in the summertime. With that being said, that locker room, I was just there Thursday. They're excited and pumped up for this game because guess what? They look at it like we got 6 games left on the schedule, and if you look at them in order, it's the Giants. They suck. You got Cincinnati, and they have the same record as the Cowboys. They're very good, but they have the same record, and that means you got a chance. And you got the Carolina Panthers, worst team in the league. They think, you know what? Anything can happen, and that's what you want out of competitors. Let them try to do this. If they don't, that's fine. That does not mean that Mike McCarthy saves his job if you have a fear of that. You know what I'm saying? His job was to get him out of the first round. They kind of sabotaged him, talking about the front office with not making moves. But I'm not mad at what transpires because I want to see this because I want to be able to sort it out. That's a strategy for those looking at the draft as the only thing. You got to have trades, you got to have free agency, and you got to have the draft. My strategy is to see what you got.
When the game is between the white lines, you see exactly what guys are made of. We saw what Cooper Rush, we know what Cooper Rush is made of, but at the same time, this is a Giants defense that is filled with holes. They're allowing more than 30 points per game in their last 5 games as well. Mm-hmm. So Cooper Rush coming off a game that I thought he was relatively productive, 24 of 32 for 247 yards with the 2 touchdowns. You combine that with feeding Rico Dowdle. We finally saw him as a feature back where he was toting the rock repetitively.
It wasn't committee no more.
No doubt about it. So this has all the makings for another Cowboys win. And listen, that famous last words, right? We'll go ahead and play that if it doesn't play out that way. But I think, too, there's something to be said about stockpiling some wins in a row. And you start believing, you start feeling a little bit better about what you're made of and what this team can be. Not to get crazy with any of these expectations beyond that, but man, right here, right now, Thanksgiving, you got an opportunity. Win your first home game. Goodness.
That's where I was about to go with this. To me, the Cowboys have to overcome AT&T Stadium. They don't have to overcome the Giants. They have to overcome the fact that they can't win a damn home game after winning 16 straight games. The last win was last December the 30th against the Lions.
I was at that one.
Yeah, and the Lions been on a mission ever since to go to the Super Bowl, and they're playing the best football in the NFL right now. We're going to talk about the Lions a little bit later because they're playing at 12 today or 11:30 this morning. At the same time, keep this in mind. The Cowboys' average loss this season at home is about 23 points. 23 points. They're doing it to themselves. If they would lose to this Giants team, I'd have to flip a pencil. I'd have to say, you've got to be kidding me. It's got to be a jinx now because on paper, they should win against a team that has nothing to play for. The only way the Giants, to me, could win this game is if they just said, you know what, we have nothing to lose. Let's try crazy stuff.
Trick plays.
That's what I'm talking about.
I do.
If they go by the book, the Cowboys' defense is playing much better, and they even got. Have you noticed they got Micah playing 3 technique?
I did. Yeah,
they got him playing in the middle of the field. He's stopping the run.
Yeah, we did see some guys last Sunday against Washington step up defensively with some really, really impressive games. You want to see more of that?
That's what I'm saying.
One.
You're able to see some guys who you say, I'm going to keep this guy. He's not making business decisions. Wait a minute. He's better than I thought. It's like little things like that helps you evaluate the talent that you have as opposed to not looking at it and saying, sweep it all out, and then guess what? believe it or not, there are people who actually like to, let me just evaluate. I don't care about watching the game. I just want to tweak. I want to play. That's their way of being involved in football because they don't play.
There you go. Mike Zimmer's defense, I think, is getting better, especially post-bye week. They've gotten incrementally better where you've seen some progress there. And again, don't take this as, Jake says they're a playoff team. And
No.
No, I do believe there's value in building an organization internally the right way.
Thank you.
And you win. That's by winning games.
Let me tell you something. Who wants any of the players from the Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, who went through the process and realized you don't, it's a business decisions. You don't want that if you are trying to win a Super Bowl. Unless you don't care about winning the Super Bowl. I'm talking about those who are infatuated with drafting and combines and off-season activities as opposed to the games themselves.
Right. The draft is a process internally.
And that's just a chunk.
Yes. As an organization, we always get, and I'm guilty of this too, you get fed up with the first round pick, where you're picking, but it is a marathon, not a sprint. You got to hit on late round guys. You got to hit on off-season acquisitions and so on and so forth.
And that's just a part, again, you've got to trade, you've got to sign some free agents, Derrick Henry. You got to do all the things to augment it. You can't ignore 2/3 of team building and focus only on the draft. You'll never get anywhere.
100%.
So again, I'm just kind of animated about people who say, you got to tank. Ask Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, about tanking and tanking for Tua and how the coach Brian Flores got fired because he really wanted Justin Herbert, and then they wanted to try to get Tom Brady and Sean Payton to be their coach and general manager and quarterback. It's Google it up.
Yeah, the ironic part about that is they lost draft picks as part of the punishment.
Thank you. And he couldn't be around the team for a year and a half.
Exactly.
I'm just saying you can't do this.